Amara never imagined that standing up for someone she admired would turn her entire world upside down. For 3 steady years, her life had revolved around the cozy routine of Sonny's Diner, a small, unassuming place tucked between a bookstore and a vintage record shop on a busy San Francisco street. Its warm neon lights glowed softly against the wet pavement, especially on rainy nights like that one, offering comfort and familiarity to the regulars who passed through its doors. At 29, Amara had found a quiet rhythm in her job. With her kind eyes, warm demeanor, and a smile that came easy, she wasn't just a waitress. She was part of the heart of the diner. To her, it wasn't just work. Sonny's had become her second home. She'd gotten to know the habits and stories of the regulars, learned how to read moods by the way people stirred their coffee, and always made time for small talk and shared laughs. That Tuesday night started just like any other. The usual crowd had trickled in, taking their favorite spots. The smell of fresh apple pie lingered in the air, mingling with the ever-present aroma of strong coffee. Rain tapped against the windows, a quiet soundtrack to another predictable evening. Then the door chimed. Amara glanced up from the counter she'd been wiping, and froze. There, brushing raindrops off his coat and stepping cautiously inside, was none other than Keanu Reeves. Yes, the Keanu Reeves. Tall, understated in dark jeans and a black sweater, his shoulder-length hair slightly damp from the rain, he looked every bit the humble star the world had come to admire. For a moment, Amara's heart stumbled. She had watched his movies, read articles about his low-key acts of generosity, and admired his grounded nature from afar. Now he was in her diner. Without fuss, he chose a quiet booth tucked away from the windows, clearly hoping for a low-key meal. Still, whispers spread like wildfire among the customers. Heads turned. Phones were subtly drawn. The excitement buzzed beneath the hum of casual chatter. Amara took a breath and approached his table with the same grace she gave every customer. "Good evening," she said, offering him a warm smile. "What can I get for you tonight?" He looked up, his expression gentle and a little tired. "Just coffee, black, and—" His eyes flicked toward the dessert case. "Maybe a slice of apple pie?" "Coming right up," she replied, relieved her voice didn't shake. She turned to walk back to the counter, heart still racing, when she noticed the shift in atmosphere. Most patrons had the decency to be subtle with their curiosity. Most, but not all. Earl, a grizzled regular who had claimed the same stool at the counter for the past 2 decades, wasn't known for subtlety or kindness. He was a man of strong opinions and a louder mouth. With a scowl etched deep into his face, Earl stood and made his way over to Keanu's table. Amara's gut twisted. "Well, well," Earl said, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Look who's graced us with his presence, Mr. Hollywood himself." Amara glanced over nervously, silently willing Earl to sit back down. But he kept going. "Must be nice," he said, his voice thick with judgment. "Living in a mansion while the rest of us are out here struggling to make ends meet." Keanu didn't flinch. He set his coffee down calmly. "Everyone has their own struggles," he said softly. "We're all just doing our best." But Earl wasn't ready to back off. "I read about you," he sneered. "All that money, and what do you do with it? Probably spend it on expensive cars and vacations. Bet you've never worked a real job in your life." The room fell into a thick, tense silence. Amara, carrying the slice of apple pie, hesitated mid-step. Her hands trembled. She couldn't just stay silent, not when she knew the truth. She'd read about Keanu giving away massive portions of his salary to crew members, supporting hospitals, and quietly funding cancer research in honor of his sister. He never advertised these acts. He just did them. "That's not true," she said firmly, stepping forward. "Keanu has donated millions to children's hospitals. He's helped fund cancer research. He gave away most of what he earned from The Matrix to the special effects team. He's one of the kindest people in the industry, and he doesn't do it for attention. Earl turned on her, eyes narrowing. Nobody asked you, girl. Since when do you defend millionaire celebrities? Amara didn't waver. Since people started spreading lies about someone who's actually made a difference. If you spent even 5 minutes looking up the truth instead of relying on rumors, you'd see it for yourself. The silence in the diner grew heavier. Keanu watched quietly, a deep gratitude in his eyes. But before anyone else could speak, the kitchen door swung open, and Mr. Sullivan, the diner's owner, stepped out. His expression was hard. "Amara," he barked. "My office, now." In the cramped back office, his words came fast and cold. "You're fired," he said flatly. "We don't argue with customers, especially longtime regulars like Earl." Stunned, Amara could barely speak. "You're firing me for standing up to someone who was being cruel? For telling the truth?" "I'm firing you for disrupting the peace," he replied. "Earl and his friends have been coming here for 20 years. I'm not losing business because you decided to defend some actor." Fighting back tears, Amara gathered her things and walked out with her head held high. As she stepped back into the diner, Keanu approached her quietly. "I'm sorry," he said, voice soft. "You didn't have to say anything, but thank you. What you did, that took guts." Amara offered him a faint, tired smile. "Sometimes, it's just worth it to stand up for what's right." The next morning, Amara's phone buzzed with several missed calls from an unknown number. She hesitated before answering, and nearly dropped the phone when she heard the voice on the other end. It was someone from Keanu's production company. "Mr. Reeves was incredibly moved by what you did," the caller explained. "We're working on a documentary series about everyday heroes, people who stand up for others even when it costs them something. He believes your integrity and insight would be a huge asset to the project. We'd like to offer you a position as a research coordinator." Amara's breath caught. "Wait, are you serious?" "Very. The role includes full benefits, and we're happy to assist with relocation if necessary. Would you be interested?" 2 hours later, Amara returned to Sonny's diner, this time as a customer. The familiar chime of the door rang as every head turned. Earl sat stiffly at the counter, trying not to look at her. Mr. Sullivan stared, caught somewhere between confusion and discomfort. "Amara," he began. "About last night." "I'm just here to return my uniform," she interrupted, placing the neatly folded clothes on the counter. "And to say thank you." "Thank me?" he asked, bewildered. "Yes, because if you hadn't fired me for doing the right thing, I wouldn't have gotten offered the opportunity of a lifetime this morning." She smiled, the weight of the past night lifting. Sometimes, losing something small leads to something bigger. As whispers filled the diner, she explained her new role. Mr. Sullivan said nothing. Earl stared down at his coffee, cheeks red. Before she left, Amara turned to the room one last time. It's easy to make judgments, especially about people in the spotlight. But kindness matters, and standing up for what's right, that matters even more. Over the next few months, Amara poured herself into her new job. The documentary series came to life, shining a light on teachers using their own savings to help students, neighbors rescuing families during storms, teenagers defending classmates from bullies. Each story reminded her of the night that changed everything. A year later, when the first episode premiered, Amara sat in a packed theater, tears in her eyes as she watched the stories unfold. Keanu had insisted she be credited as co-producer, despite her protests. "You inspired this," he told her at the premiere. "Your courage started something. One act of bravery can ripple out in ways you'd never expect." Looking back, Amara realized losing her job at Sonny's wasn't a downfall, it was a turning point. That rainy evening had taught her that even the smallest acts of courage can lead to the biggest changes. Sometimes, Standing up for someone else is exactly what it takes to step into the life you were meant to live.